5 years have come and gone and Sonic Frontiers is finally out. In this unscripted video, I just want to talk about my thoughts on the game and my impressions on the game, cause, I don't know. I just want to do that, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But before I do, let me hear your experience, your thoughts on the game in the comments. Because everybody's probably had a different experience with this game. And everybody probably has different thoughts on this game, because everybody has different opinions. So over the course of this video, I want to talk about 3 sins. Like, about the game. The gameplay, the combat, the story, the graphics, and just, my overall thoughts on the game as a complete package of itself, you know what I mean? So starting off with the gameplay. So in Sonic Frontiers, basically, we all know the stuff. You've got cyberspace. Oh my god, Discord, let me turn that off. And you've got, running around in the open world. And, I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but, I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. Cyberspace, run around in the open world, where you have, like, those kind of platforming segments where there'd be, like, some rails, a sprint, boost pad. You go through that, and, you do whatever you have to do to get the memory token. So I guess I should kind of explain the gameplay loop and how I think about it. So the first, island, right? It's like kind of the tutorial island. And then after you beat that first mini-boss thingy, the game basically tells you, like, hey, you can go and do anything you want now. So basically, the gameplay loop is for basically 3 islands. 4 islands, really. Is you find Sonic's friend, you find out that they're trapped in cyberspace. You collect memory tokens to free them and unlock cutscenes, right? Then you got cyberspace. You go into cyberspace, but to get into cyberspace, you need the gears to open the portals, right? The portal opens up cyberspace, you go into cyberspace, and you collect the keys, and you collect the keys to open up, the vaults to get Chaos Emeralds to then beat the boss. So, I feel like by the 3rd island, I kind of got tired of the gameplay, because the game is very, very repetitive. Not even in its gameplay, just how the game just kind of acts. So basically on the first island, right, you're saving Amy. So basically this is what you do. You save Amy, you do cyberspace, you save Amy, collect, a bunch of memory tokens, get Chaos Emeralds, unlock, or talk to Amy again with your memory tokens, right? You unlock more cutscenes, then this is like a sin that happens basically on all of them. They find this Coco that's kind of like connected to the character, like Amy. She finds this love Coco or something. They want to find their lost lover. I don't really remember. You do that, then you do a mini game, and basically what I'm trying to say is that the game is very repetitive. You talk to your friend in cyberspace, right? Then you go around, talk to them again some more, find a Coco, you do a mini game with the Coco, you get a Chaos Emerald, and then I think you do maybe one last puzzle, like for example, on the Amy Island, I don't remember what it's called. You do the light puzzle, and then I think that, after that, you get the last Chaos Emerald and you go fight the boss. On the Knuckles Island, you do that crane thingy, I think. Then after that, you get the last Chaos Emerald, then you go fight the boss. And then the Tails one, you do the hacking minigame. And I'm not sure if you fight the boss after that. I'm not even sure if you fight the boss after the Knuckles one. My memory's a little hazy. But basically what I'm trying to get to is that this game is very repetitive. Not just in its gameplay, but just in its presentation too. It's just you save your friends, you talk to them, and basically the same cutscenes are happening. They talk for a bit, you do that, help out the Coco, and then boom, you do some mini game city, and then boom, you go fight the boss. The game has a very repetitive gameplay loop, and I have to say, fighting the Titans is definitely the best part of the game, but they're not very hard, and I feel like they go down in quality, the Titan boss fights. They go down in quality basically after the first boss, because every boss after that, I was just like, dude, what the heck am I supposed to do? I really didn't know what to do. Really, and they just weren't as fun as the first one. I don't know. But, sticking on the gameplay part, let's talk about cyberspace. Cyberspace, for me, is definitely the worst part of the game. It's just not really fun, because Sonic, I didn't talk about this, but, everybody knows this. In the open world, you can, tweak Sonic to how you want him to control. But without even tweaking how he controls, he controls pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. He turns, he can actually turn. He just is pretty fun to control in the open world. But then you go into cyberspace, and that frown goes from a frown, that frown turns up, that grin turns upside down, or whatever the heck that saying is. But basically, you get into cyberspace, and the controls are just horrible. And the controls, for me, just make them not fun. Cyberspace is just not fun, because the controls are just really bad. And I feel like sometimes, most of the times, I'm just trying to fight the controls, because I'm trying to do something, and Sonic's just not doing it. I remember, the cyberspace level where it's the Green Forest level? Where it's basically Green Forest. Basically, I remember there's this part, where, it's that turny part with the rails, and then it has some rins in the middle of it. And I tried my hardest to get the rins, but Sonic just would not turn. He would not turn, he'd just go on the rail. And he would just, these were rins in 10, right? The 10 rins. And I needed them to get the S rank, because, I just wanted to get the keys to unlock the Chaos Emerald vaults, but Sonic would not turn. I just don't understand how his controls are so good in the open world, but then you go to the cyberspace and his controls are just so bad, and they just make the levels not fun. The levels are they're just not fun at all. And the fact that they just reuse, past levels, I'm playing the Green Forest level in cyberspace. It just makes me want to play Green Forest and Sonic Adventure 2, because it's more fun, because the controls are just 100 times better in that game, compared to Sonic Frontiers. The cyberspace levels are just the worst part of the game for me. They weren't fun, and I'd say by the last island, I just didn't even want to play the cyberspace levels anymore, because I was just not having fun with them. So I just, got the rest of the keys and the Sage memory tokens. I got the rest of that from Big Fishin', because cyberspace was just not fun at all, and I just didn't want to play it anymore. So cyberspace is definitely the worst part of the game for me. It just sucks really bad, man. And I also want to talk about just, how I feel like the overall fun factor of the game kind of goes downhill after the first or second island. I feel like it's just not as fun after you beat those two islands. Because for some reason on the third island, it kind of turns into Sonic Colors with the amount of 2D, a random boost pad or something. You run into that and then boom, you're just locked into a 2D section, and just really wasn't fun at all. The third island in particular. Then also the fact that on the third island, there was kind of mini islands, right? Where, for example, you'd have to go to get the Chaos Emeralds. I think the silver one? Or, talk to Tails or something, and I was just, at the same time, just well, the game's kind of making me explore, but at the same time, I was a little confused, because I'm just how the heck do I get there, right? And really, by the fifth island, I just kind of wanted to stop playing the game. I wasn't having that good of a time, and I didn't want to play cyberspace anymore, like I said before, so I just really abused the Big Fishin' to get the vault keys, because, like I said, I just did not want to play cyberspace anymore. But I think I've talked way too much about the gameplay aspect of this game. Let's talk about the combat. I think the combat in this game is pretty fun, but I guess this also kind of ties into difficulty. This game is not really hard at all. I played it on hard mode, expecting to have a hard time, but the game is not hard at all. I feel like this game really could have benefited from having a health bar, because the Rin system just makes this game incredibly easy. It's just you get hit by something, right? You get knocked back. Well, just Psyloop, and you get some Rin stacks, so it's just it's not really ever the danger of dying, I guess, because there's no health bar, and you can have so many runes, and if you do run out of runes, just side loop and you get runes back, so... You know what I mean? And I feel like some of the moves that you can unlock with Sonic just makes him really overpowered, because, like, Sonic Boom, is that the one where you kick stuff out of his feet? That one is just, like, incredibly broken, especially in the early game. Like, enemies just melt from that move, so enemies never really pose a challenge, because Sonic is just really OP in this game, I'm not gonna lie. And what else is OP is the parry. This is what makes the game just incredibly easy from a combat perspective. Like, in most other games, you know, you gotta time your parry, but for some reason in Sonic Frontiers, you don't have to time it at all, you just hold the left bumper and the right bumper, boom. If anything hits you, they get parried. And the funny thing is the game literally points this out to you too. It's just like, hey, in the training simulator thingy, the game's like, hey, you know you could hold down the bumpers and you just parry, there's no timing needed? The game literally tells you that. Combat in this game is pretty cool. Like, Sonic, he does a lot of cool moves, but I feel like he's really overpowered, and the fact that you can just hold parry, like, you're just kind of like an unstoppable machine. No enemies are really gonna put up a fight against you, and I feel like there's not really a reason to, like, you know, have some depth with this combat, you know? There kinda is no depth to the combat because of two simple things. Sonic is really overpowered, and basic enemies don't really pose a threat. All they do, like some, they throw up like a shield, and you gotta side loop that. Alright? And also what I kinda hate is when you'll be attacking an enemy, and then they just attack you. How does that make sense? I'm attacking you, how do you just hit me out of my combo? But basically what I'm trying to say about the combat, it's really cool, but Sonic is way too overpowered, and the enemies just get disintegrated. The parry is way too overpowered, because you could just hold it, so there's not really... Basically what I'm trying to get at is that this combat, kinda how the game is designed, you don't really need to be strategic with your combat, you don't need to dodge, you don't need to really do anything, really. After you attack your enemy, and they, like, get knocked back and they're about to attack, you don't really need to react to anything. You just hold your parry and then boom. They're basically annihilated, so... The combat in this game, really cool, really flashy moves, but... It's not that good from, like, on a fighting perspective, because Sonic is just really overpowered, and the enemies kinda just pose no challenge. Even some of the bosses, really. Like Giganto, the first one, like, when you really think about it, he doesn't really pose a threat, like, you just wail on him, and then after that, you just hold parry, and then boom, you just wail on him again, so... The combat in this game is really cool, it's really flashy, it's not put to good use at all because of how the enemies and how the game really is designed. Now, talking about the story, I thought this game was gonna have an amazing story, but it's probably the best Sonic story we've had this whole decade, but that's not really saying much because every other story was really bad and really uninteresting. I feel like with this story, it's not bad, but it's not amazing either. I thought it was gonna be amazing because of this Ian Flynn guy, but I feel like the story was just okay. The best part of the story was basically seeing Sonic and his friends interact with each other, because, you know, they just had some pretty good lines, and it was fun to see them interact with each other on a normal basis, like, they were talking like friends that should talk, you know what I mean? But other than that, the story wasn't really that interesting at all. Wasn't really interested in the Cocos or whatever. I didn't really even understand what the deal with them was. Like, I think apparently, like, they made the Titans or something like that. I'm not sure, but overall, the story, I feel like it was really nothing to write home about. I feel like what held the story back was that, like, it was trying to go for this, like, mysterious tone, but I feel like that just made me not really understand anything that was going on at all. But, and, like, I don't know, the story just wasn't that interesting. So, like, this is kinda how, like, the story would go. Sonic, he'd be talking with one of his friends, and then I haven't even talked about her yet, but, you know, the new character, Sage. Basically, he'll be talking to one of his friends, and then Sage just pops out of nowhere and just like, hey, can you stop? Like, you're gonna die or some jazz like that, and then Sonic's like, no. then she's like, okay, and then she disappears. And that's basically the story for a while. That you talk to your friends, Sage appears, says some mumbo jumbo, and then disappears. And that kind of just happens throughout the whole game. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I don't think the story was that good, but I don't think it was bad either. It was just kind of underwhelming and just really alright. Nothing to write home about, really. Best part about it was the characters talking to each other, but other than that, just kind of a mess story, really. What kind of ties into the story are the Eggman memo thingies. I haven't listened to them myself, but they kind of reminded me of the secret Ansem reports from from Kingdom Hearts. But unlike Kingdom Hearts, where Kingdom Hearts, you know, just kind of gives them to you as you go along through the story, you gotta find these in the... I think you gotta buy them in the Big Fishing City. It's kind of weird that he'd have them, but he does. It's kind of weird that he has any of the stuff he does, but he does, and it doesn't matter. But I just thought that was kind of cool. It's like, it reminded me of Kingdom Hearts. Lastly, I just want to touch on the graphics. Like, I don't know, I played this game on a pretty powerful laptop. Played it on the best settings that the game allowed, and I'm not gonna lie, the game doesn't look that good for how I would expect it to look. Like, I remember seeing, like, some screenshots of the game, just like, wow, this game looks pretty nice. But actually playing it on my screen and looking at it, the game just doesn't look that nice for what I would expect it to look like, you know what I mean? Like, people are like, oh my god, this is like the best looking Sonic game. I'm just looking at it, I'm just like, really? Like, this game doesn't look that good. Like, take for example the beginning of the game where Sonic is unconscious. Like, what's with the grass texture? What's with the rain? It just doesn't look good at all. And I'm pretty sure the reason for this is because basically I'm guessing when they were developing this, basically they started with, like, the Switch in mind, right? Like, they were developing this game with the fact that they just wanted the Switch to run it. And basically they started off with the Switch, and then, like, they branched off to the other stuff in the future. It's basically what they did is, I'm guessing they started at a very low point graphics-wise, and everything else that wasn't the Switch was like, alright, we'll just bump it up on the other consoles, but that just made the game kind of look pretty bad in the, like, on everything else. It looks kind of bad on Switch. And, I don't know, just... I'm on the highest graphics and the game just doesn't look very nice, I'm not gonna lie. I was very disappointed with that. And then also on top of that is that the game doesn't have a 120 FPS mode. Like, I'm a PC gamer now and 120 FPS is just awesome. The fact that it's 2022 and Sega just doesn't have this in Sonic Frontiers, I'm just like, seriously? I gotta deal with 60 FPS, which isn't bad by any means, but I've just, you know, I'd expect it to be on a PC game in the year 2022. Overall, when it comes to graphics, doesn't look as good as I thought it was gonna look, and it definitely doesn't look as good as it did when I saw the screenshots. And I guess you can't really talk about graphics without talking about that horrible poppin'. I got used to it over time, but, you know, I feel like I shouldn't have to get used to something. Like, this is like, you know, this is a full-priced game, and like, it's the year 2022, like, I'd expect this poppin', like, you know, maybe on the Nintendo 64, but this poppin' is very bad and kind of inexcusable. I remember when they first showed off the IGN one, I was like, you know, hopefully, I think they're gonna fix the poppin'. They never did. Who knows if they even touched the poppin'. And like, I know other games have poppin', but they do not have poppin' to the extent of Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers basically does nothing to, like, hide it, or, like, you know, try and remedy it. Like, it just does nothing. It's just like, hey, this is gonna pop in, and it's gonna pop in right now. Or other games, like, you know, it's something really far off in the distance, so you, like, kinda have to be really close to the screen to see. But Sonic Frontiers, it's just, like, something that gonna be right in front of Sonic in the next 5 seconds, then boom, pops in. So, the pop-in is really bad, and it's something that you really shouldn't expect from a full-priced game in the year 2022. Now, before I end this pretty long video, I can't believe I rambled on. This is what happens when you ramble on. A video becomes very long. But before I end the video, I just want to give my overall thoughts on Sonic Frontiers as a game itself. I had, you know, a lot of fun on the first island. Kinda had some fun on the second island. But after the second island, the game really goes downhill. The third island really wasn't fun at all. The fourth island really isn't an island. You just go around to 6 towers, and then after, like, disabling them, I think you do, you get a cutscene after each one. And by the 5th island, I kinda didn't want to play the game anymore. It was just kinda rushing to get to the end. I didn't want to play cyberspace anymore. So I just got got the keys and sage memory tokens from Big, because I didn't really want to go exploring either. Oh, no, I also forgot to mention, the final boss for this game is very disappointing. Like, you get the last emerald, right? Then Sonic runs out, and then it's just like, Eggman is like, hey, I got you this emerald. You go Super Sonic, and you fight this boss that looks exactly like the first boss, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm fighting it, like, I really didn't know what to do. Like, you know those, like, diamond thingies, they shoot the yellow diamonds at you? Like, what was I supposed to destroy those? I didn't really understand. But then you get past those, and then you fight the actual Titan, you punch him a bit, boom, 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 boom. And then, like, you parry his attack, and then you get sent flying, and I think... does it shoot a laser at you? I don't remember. But I just really was kind of dumbfounded with that fight, and it just wasn't fun. It's just like, how do you go from such an awesome fight for the first boss, and then the final boss is really just pretty bad, really. And he goes down, he's just like not a challenge at all. He goes down, and then after I beat him, I'm just like, is that it? 5 seconds later, Sonic is like, is that it? He says it in Japanese for me. I was playing in Japanese, I just couldn't stand the English voice cast anymore. But since I was playing on hard, that wasn't it, because they go into space, then you do like, it's like a shoot 'em up, you know? I'm just like, what the heck? But I gotta say, the shoot 'em up boss was the hardest sin in the game. Died like 2 times on it, but still it was the hardest. It was still the hardest part of the game. But then you beat that, you press a button like what, 3 times, and then boom, it's over. The boss is done, and just a really lackluster boss, really lackluster final boss. It's just like probably one of the worst final bosses in Sonic history. It's just like, what happened? Did they run out of time or something? But I kinda got sidetracked because I should have talked about that a long time ago, but, you know, it's whatever. But, my overall thoughts on Sonic Frontiers as a game, I still think it's I was gonna say pretty good game. It's a good game, but it has a lot of flaws and lacks a lot of polish. Something else I forgot to mention, you could be running around and Sonic just like trips on a rock or something and goes flinting throughout the air, and it's just like, what the heck? And then sometimes I'll try and recreate that, and it just doesn't want to work, you know? Like, I'll try and, like, do that off of, like, a hill or something? I don't even remember. But I'll try and make Sonic do exactly what he just did, and it won't work. Because, like, the game just kind of picks and chooses when Sonic wants to flint off of something. And I also tried to do, like, I remember, like, apparently there's, like, rail momentum or something. I've tried to do that, like, a couple times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if it's me or if it's the game. I don't know. But the game goes downhill after the second island, and just lacks a lot of polish in some areas. And, you know, it's just like, what happened? But my overall score for the game, out of 10, would probably have to be a 7. It's not the best Sonic game ever, but it's definitely a big improvement after Sonic Lost World and Sonic Forces, because those games sucked. They sucked hard. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on Sonic Forces. I give it a 7 out of 10. Game's pretty fun, but has a lot of flaws and is very unpolished for a full-priced game. But those are just my thoughts on the game. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments. My throat's kinda hurting because I've been talking for a long time. But hey, if you liked the video, consider giving it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But I don't even remember my own outro. Hope you had a great day. See ya.